YouTube. You're going to see some of the most special vintage timepieces you've seen in a while.
Just picks up.
Let me try that again. No, I got you with that one. Let me try that again. YouTube, you're about to see some of the most special vintage timepieces I've shown in quite some time. Millions of dollars worth of vintage stuff. Stay tuned. Let's jump into a couple of gifts before we do that. So you guys remember our friends from the watch stand. Well, ever since the watch stand came out with the watch stand, introducing the luxury watch stand. Marble, I'm assuming. Yeah, nice marble, nice leather, brass fittings, and luxury bazaar on top. Thank you, the luxury watch stand. And then moving on to two gifts from a very special client and friend by the name of Michael. We'll leave it at that. That sent me and Adrian a gift. I'm going to start with Adrian's gift. Notice this says Porsche design. This guy is also a big Porsche guy, a big car guy. Porsche, what would you compare Porsche to watch-wise?
Porsche is like Rolex. Mercedes, Rolex, Porsche's Rolex.
But I feel like from a technical perspective, like a lot of people, I hear a lot of car guys, again, don't take my word for it, I'm not a car guy, but a lot of car guys always talk about Porsche being like pound for pound, the better machine. Like, you take it on a track.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing I like about Porsche being more comparable to Rolex is like, we're talking about this in a podcast with Avi and Alex was saying, like Porsche collectors are very like specific in that they want like a specific reference, a specific car, specific details. And I feel like that is very akin to Rolex collectors, especially vintage Rolex collectors. Well, which like those little nuances that make it a little different.
Okay, well I don't know anything about cars. All I know is that
neither do I.
Adrian just got a Porsche design watch as a gift. Very Porsche-like, sleek construction of the bracelet. I actually like. Cool watch.
Very cool.
And on top of that, it comes with additional straps.
Yeah.
And it also has the easy interchangeable system, as most of the brands have now started to pick up.
It's a very nice, like minimalistic design. I like it.
Well, Porsche design. Like, if you ever been to the Porsche store, they have a bunch of boutiques out there. Like, they have luggage, they have accessories, writing instruments as well, which I know you collect. I
love how Ruben is so, what's it called? He's so cultured. He called it writing instruments and not pens, which is not.
Well, you're a collector. This is a very heavy box. And the reason this is a heavy box, speaking of 𝗙𝗵𝗲𝗯𝗍, this is one of those gifts where I'm going to say, Michael, you shouldn't have, because I know this is an expensive gift, but I'll take it. And thank you very much, because I absolutely love that. I do have various clocks around my office and house, and I think I'll take that one home, or I might actually place this one here.
I think right on top of the car. Ooh,
thank you, the luxury watch stand. Thank you, Michael, for the wonderful gifts. Unnecessary, but thank you. Let's move on to some watches. I have one box, and the rest is this. Let's see what's in a Lange box. Oh, I think I know what this is. Yes, it is. The Lange Moonphase is comparable to me to like a Batman or a 𝗙𝗵𝗲𝗍 GMT in terms of popularity, in terms of the watch itself, right? Obviously different price points, etc. But
definitely not as liquid for sure. But
well, so nothing is as liquid as well. But I'm saying
within the brand.
Within the brand, it's not the plain Lange one. It's like a step up, and it's super popular, right? It's not a Submariner, but it's a 𝗙𝗵𝗲𝗍 GMT. But this one is special because it's platinum. Lange does not make very many platinum watches. Whenever I get a chance to pick up a Lange platinum anything, I go for it, because you just don't see them around.
I love that white.
What did you call it? What did you call that triangle?
It's the equilateral triangle.
The equilateral triangle in terms of design between the date, the Moonphase.
It creates perfect balance.
Oh, it's even sized to my wrist. Love it. It just looks good. And it feels good. Like, I like a little bit of heft. So yesterday, me and Adrian went to New York. We had a meeting with a client. Shout out to the client. You know who you are. And we delivered actually 𝗙𝗵𝗲𝗍𝗯, picked up a watch from the client, which I think Marco is going to want to keep for himself. While on 47th Street, we can't, Adrian left me alone for about an hour and a half, and like, this is probably the #1 pickup in a while in terms of a vintage watch. Now, from afar, you guys thinking, oh wow, it's a nice modern Royal Oak. It's not. This is the original 5402 in yellow gold. Now, what makes this one special? Zoom in on that and look at the condition. I have never seen a 5402 in gold, a watch that's damn near 50 years old, be in that brand new, pretty much NOS condition. When something is a little too good to be true, and it usually is, I checked it, I checked all the hallmarks, I called Adam saw it on FaceTime, and the reason I kept saying that, like, normally I would never go through so much due diligence on a watch that I bought 20 times over and know 20 times over, but it was just too good to be true. So I took it to another vintage expert in New York, this guy's on a level, like, probably top 10 vintage guys out there. He'd said the same thing, and then he looped the whole watch over and said, you know what? This watch is either NOS, it was completely reconstructed by Audemars Piguet to be in NOS condition. He said, I have never seen an example this clean on this watch.
Yeah, because these were sports watches, right? Sports watches were always meant to be, I mean, the fact that there's absolutely zero stretch in the bracelet for a 50-year-old watch.
Zero stretch, look at this bracelet.
Can I ask you, in terms of rarity, do you know the exact, or roughly the production numbers? Like the 3700 steel versus yellow gold. Yellow gold is like they made about 1500. Do you know approximately how many?
I don't. If I did, I'd be lying, but I'm sure it's something.
I imagine it's at most between like all the series, like a few hundred, right?
Again, remember when this watch came out, you're talking about people going, "What in the hell is this? And why is it so much money?" Right?
In steel, for sure. And then you put that in gold.
They kind of compensated for it by making the gold pieces. This is, by far, in all the years I've been in the business, the best condition 5402 I have ever seen in all metals. And the fact that the bracelet is just that tight, and it's like I said, either this sat in the safe for 50 years or it was completely redone and reconstructed by AP. That's the only way I can see this watch being in the condition that it's in. So I gave this little special bag. Oh wait, I'll save that one for last. Okay. That's a Marco watch. So one of these that I picked up, these Quantième Perpetuals, that trades around that $20,000 price range. It's just such a value from Audemars Piguet that every time I see a decent deal on one, I will always pick it up. To pick up a Quantième Perpetual, pretty iconic watch for AP if you think about it. Under $20,000?
I think it also shows the flex of AP in terms of their watchmaking prowess, right? Because they were making these in the 70s and 80s, if I'm not mistaken, when the 39, what's the first reference? Patek Philippe 3940, I want to say? 3940. Yeah, 3940 wasn't even being produced at the time, right? This uses the JLC 920 movement with perpetual calendar module added on top. It's a timeless classic. The aesthetic is clean, it's perfect. I mean, again, it just shows the watchmaking prowess of Audemars Piguet, making this probably 20 years, at least a decade before Patek.
One of the particular reasons why I picked this up is this watch is in great condition. It has never been touched. You can see some of the original patina, so you know this thing sat for a little bit in the condition that it's in. It's in almost perfect condition. And a lot of times with these things, it's that condition. Like I wouldn't even take like a wiping cloth to this. I would want to keep that original patina as you see it, because I feel like that always adds character. This is where things get really, really special. And I don't know, I know what's in here because this is the stuff that I brought from New York yesterday, but I don't know which thing holds which. So I'm just gonna randomly pick one of these off. This right here is probably one of the most beautiful Stella dials that Rolex has ever made. Original diamond bezel, original diamond Stella dial. It's a bit fumé, as you call it, right? There's just, I was speechless when I saw that watch.
Yeah, it's a beautiful watch, especially in this pristine of a condition. You know, put into context, a lot of the Stella dials were, I mean, this was made, what, at least 30, 40, 50 years ago. So, because this will be probably a single quick.
Well, let's start with the fact that it's hand painted.
Yeah.
Let's start with the fact that no one dial is alike, so technically they're all unique.
A lot of them cracked, right? So to have a pristine condition example, especially nowadays, is extremely rare. And they're one of the most coveted day-dates models ever made. You know, apart from the crazy gem set ones, you'll find a special order from like the Sultan of Oman and what have you. But these are as good as it gets in terms of regular production Rolex day-dates.
So one of the things that you know, people often talk about is like, you know, I buy this watch because I like the aesthetics of it, right? And there's certain watches that are aesthetically beautiful for various reasons. This watch, you look at it, looking down on it, it's like oftentimes we talk about things how others perceive the watch on your wrist, right? How a richer meal catches attention, it's a flex. How a gold Rolex is a flex. Well, here, it's just aesthetically pleasing, close and personal. The minute you lift your hand up and you look at that dial, it's just like...
And it's so rare, you'll never see another on somebody's wrist, probably. Yeah.
Right? So to me, it's a big flex. When I walk into a room and I know odds are I'm the only person in the world I'm the only person that's going to be in that room with that watch, I absolutely love that. That's why I like a lot of the piece uniques, because then I'm the only one in the world, literally. But, so, the Beta from Patek, right? These watches, I remember 15, 20 years ago, you couldn't give these away. They were like $3,000, $4,000 watches. They were just big, bulky, ugly watches that nobody understood, right? Now, we're going back to the era of the quartz crisis, right? So what did a lot of these companies do to battle Seiko, starting in 1969 and moving forward 70s and 80s? Because that crisis lasted for quite some time. It's not like it went away overnight, right?
Right. It was almost a decade from like essentially.
Essentially a decade. So what companies did is they actually made their own quartz watches. Now, what makes this particular Patek rare is there were a few variations of this. Most of them came on straps. Some of them came on bracelets, but only a few came on detachable bracelets, which is what this is, and first and foremost. And second of all, this is what's called a Swiss cheese bracelet, and for obvious reason. And this is a collab, right? Yeah,
this would have been probably a 𝗙𝗵𝗲𝗄𝗃 bracelet at the time. And this was a collaboration movement-wise from Patek Philippe and JLC, right? So it's a fully quartz watch, but has an automatic sweep, which is what makes it actually quite rare, right? Because most, obviously, quartz watches have the ticking motion every single second. So a very, very cool watch, ingenious for its time. And of course, the look of it, I mean, it's not like I think anything Patek ever did or ever released after this.
It's a big, bulky watch. Like, I actually owned that watch for a while on the strap. I wore it for quite a while, and then somebody took it off my wrist and I sold it. And again, the next and the very last thing that makes this watch super rare, believe it or not, is the fact that it works.
Yeah.
I know, oh my God, Roman, it's a watch that works, right? It should be a given. It's not, because remember, there's an entire unit in there that makes this entire watch work. And if that unit breaks, it's not something that can be fixed.
Yeah, and it's like a damn near 50-year-old watch.
It's like trying to fix a TV from the 40s, basically, right? You don't have the parts, you can't fix that particular unit. I'm gonna go this one. This is heavy. This is actually a modern piece that I picked up.
It's an Aquaterra Worldtime. I mean, listen, in terms of Worldtime complication, I don't think there's a better value than an Omega Worldtime.
Full rose gold bracelet.
Yeah,
case.
Especially on a bracelet, right? And also, I think to this quality, because I know Frédéric Constant makes a pretty affordable one, but I don't think it's nearly as nice. And that dial is actually really cool. So I'm pretty sure it's made with a CNC machine, but it almost looks enamel-like in person.
I know.
I
was going to say, for those of you who think that this is enamel dial, it actually is not an enamel dial, but the way they managed to do that. Can you get a close-up on that dial?
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
Like, look at it. It does look enamel, but it's actually not.
Now, I know in steel, they're pretty, they're out there, like they can be had. I've never seen one before in rose gold, which I actually really like.
You have to consider this. Even when you talk about Omega and you talk about precious metals, like people ask me, it's like, in general, what are rare Omegas? Actually, precious metal Omegas are pretty rare because the production numbers are low. You have to consider the average buyer for an Omega. They don't produce as many old gold watches that tend to be a little bit more expensive, and that's why you haven't seen as many.
Very nice.
What do you got?
Change of pace, another Rolex Day-Date, this one with a nice factory set diamond dial. Even the
what's the name of that dial, Marco?
I have no idea.
That's called the string dial.
There you go.
So the string dial from Rolex, they made it in variations of diamonds, rubies, emeralds, and sapphires, right? So they come in different colors. At one time, a while ago, before your time, I had a set of the Tridors with every color of the string dial. Those were really cool. We sold a set over $100,000, I remember. Why I bought this yesterday is it's just something different. Yes, it's an average yellow gold day-date, but the dial just makes it a little bit different, a break from the norm.
A lot more rare.
A lot more rare, a few more $1,000s, and you're putting yourself in something that's just going to stand out just a little more. Still a watch around that $20,000 price range, but yet has a little bit of rarity to it.
And that's what makes these day-dates unique, right? Is all of these special dials that came with them, because they don't make this stuff anymore. Nowhere near.
Oh, in here is the most expensive watch, so I'm going to leave that for last. All right, so speaking of day-dates and rare dials, one of the rarest dials on a day-date, specifically an older 36mm white gold day-date, is the Salmon dial. Not many were produced, in a diamond configuration.
Say that again, Salmon?
Salmon.
Salmon?
Salmon diamond dial, specifically in this particular case, is the reason I picked up that watch. The same reason behind the string dial, as well behind the Salmon dial, because again, go out there, look how many are out there, and you'll realize that for every one of these, there are 30 other regular type dials.
There's so much character to this. So much character. Like we had also even the cherry red one. I think this blows.
So again, it goes back to that on wrist aesthetic to yourself, where you pick the watch up and it's just, and even from afar as you're wearing it looks special.
Just hits.
It doesn't look like any other.
Absolutely hits.
So we talked about the Stella dial. Let's talk about the Stelline dial, right? This is one of those rare and very expensive pieces. Right away, you'll notice that the dial is not as clear and it's not as white, and it's reflected in the price. The best part about that watch is that it's an original untouched, unwashed, unmolested dial. This is how it turned over time. If that was perfect, the last one of these that with a perfect dial fetched $683,000 Swiss francs in auction. Today's money is about $750,000. This watch is roughly about half that, maybe a little more. due to the fact that the dial is not in perfect condition, but still original. If that dial was washed, messed with, or whatever, the watch pretty much be worthless, right? The money is in the dial. Tell me about the Stelline. What do you know about it?
Yeah, I mean, one of the rarest Rolex watches ever made, right? One of the most complicated also at the time. And with this kind of dial configuration, also one of the highest selling Rolex watches ever, right? The Bow Die Rolex sold for $5 million in 2017. If it was auctioned today, probably well over 10 million, right? And these kind of star dial Rolexes have become so popular, actually made by Stern-Frère, if I'm not mistaken. So Stern-Frère being the dial company that later bought Patek Philippe. Obviously they did that way before that was produced. But yeah, very, very cool backstory to it. Very rare, very complicated watch from Rolex. And also one of the most collectible vintage pieces they make. Great watch.
All right, so you know I usually save the best for last, and you know, usually something that's the most expensive and so on and so forth. Well, it's not. The reason this watch is very special is because this is a watch that Marco has been looking for quite a while.
Yes.
And we happen to have brought it back from New York. Tell us why you've been looking for this watch for such a while, and why you wanted this watch for such a while.
The thing is Domino's Rolex, there's a lot of Domino's Rolex, but one specifically with the Domino's printed on the dial are actually really difficult to find. I've been looking for
that's the one.
Yeah, I've been looking for this watch probably for the better part of 6 months. So I actually reached out to a customer of mine who's been looking for this. And yeah, I mean, again, just a super rare Rolex because it's modern and it has a printed dial, right? This would have been made 90s, early 2000s.
So there are different Domino logos. I think that the one you're looking for is the smaller logo that's at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right? And those are the ones that made least of. I think that was the original one, and then the rest were just kind of like reprinted at a later time, and they made more of them.
Because if I'm not mistaken, those went to like the owners or like the franchisees, and then what's it called? The ones on the bracelet went to employees.
Right.
I think is the distinction, right? So they made a lot less of these.
This is a 34?
Yeah, I want to say 34 millimeter watch.
Definitely a conversation started. One that doesn't break the bank. What are these, under 10,000?
Yeah, under 10,000.
They're under $10,000, but yet.
But creeping up in price significantly because
I used to be able to buy these for $2 grand.
They don't trade hands.
I may even have a Domino dial here somewhere.
It's possible.
Shout out to Michael for those 2 wonderful gifts. Thank you, the Luxury Watch Den, on behalf of Adrian. I know you sent that to him. Thank you, Marco, for joining me. And you want to try this on?
I mean, my wrist is kind of full.
You're gonna have to try that on later. Sorry. Guys, I appreciate all of you guys tuning in. YouTube, like, comment, share, subscribe, and we will see you on the next one.